Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining Railbookers this morning for another of our online presentations. And this morning we are going to be discovering the USA by rail and looking at our top 5 holidays. So thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for taking the time out of your Tuesday morning. Hope you've got a relatively cool spot somewhere. I'm talking to you this morning from a very warm and sunny Kent, but hope you've got a cup of coffee, perhaps somewhere cool to sit as we explore the USA by rail. My name is Anna Davis. I'm the UK Sales and Marketing Manager, and I will be your host for our time together this morning. Probably going to take about 30 to 35 minutes to look at some of our most popular US trips, and then we'll have some questions, time for questions at the end. On the right hand side of your screen, hopefully you can see a questions box. Feel free to type any questions that you have as we go through the presentation. We will have a bit of time at the end to answer those. We have also attached a handout to the presentation, which is just below the questions box, the network map of the USA by rail. So please feel free to download that as well. Any questions or any issues with accessing that, don't worry, we can send it on an email after the presentation has finished. So without further ado, I think everybody now has logged in. We will make a start. So before we get into the US trip specifically, just a couple of things I wanted to mention. We do currently have a great sale running, launched yesterday, running this week and next week with up to £350 per couple or £175 per person off. That's subject to the number of nights that the holiday is for, but 10 nights or more will save up to £350 per couple, 7 to 9 nights £250, and our 3 to 6 night itineraries £150. Now that is across all of the holidays in our portfolio, both Railbookers and Amtrak Vacations, and we're going to be talking more about our sister brand, our sister company, Amtrak Vacations, in the presentation today, looking at the USA specifically. So we do operate the two brands in the UK, Railbookers really for European trips, and Amtrak Vacations for the US side of our holidays. And why customers enjoy booking with us across our brands for all of our holidays. Just a few things I wanted to mention here. We've been creating these sort of independent, tailor-made, customizable holidays for about 17 years now, and that means that from your point of view, it means you get the holiday with everything you want in it and nothing that you don't, because it is created for you. We don't operate group trips. They're not escorted. You don't have a tour leader. It is your holiday for you with the itinerary that you want. So that flexibility really allows us to create the perfect trip for you. We can also book up to 2 years in advance. So we are booking now through to July 2023, and we have the expertise and the experience of putting these trips together. So our team, as I say, have been making these holidays for about 16 years now. They have a lot of experience on the best routes, the best options to take, suggestions for accommodation, etc. So just a few reasons why customers enjoy booking with us and traveling with us. Now, we have a range of brochures available to download on our website. You will also receive a follow-up email later today with the links to access these. Not only the Railbookers brochure, but also the Amtrak Vacations brochure with the US and Canadian trips in there as well. If you're planning something special for next year, perhaps, then lots of great ideas in all of those brochures, whether that's the worldwide one, the Scottish holidays, perhaps later this year, UK and Ireland, the US rail holidays, cruise extensions, or luxury. We've got a wide range of brochures to give you some ideas. And we have recently extended our booking policy so that we do give maximum flexibility to customers either with new bookings or existing reservations up to the 30th of September. What that means is that if you have a booking with us made by that date, you can amend, refund, cancel change, postpone, lots of flexible options there, just 5 days before, up to 5 days before departure. And that really has given customers a lot of peace of mind over the last 16, 17 months. So for more information on that, if you have any questions, do give us a call on 0203 780 2222. Now, as I mentioned, our holidays are independent, they're not escorted, but that doesn't mean that you're entirely alone when you travel. So we do have offices around the world, as the map shows here, in the States, in Canada, in Sydney, and also here in the UK. And you do have an out of hours number on your travel documents when you travel. So if you do need our assistance, if you encounter any issues whilst you're away, or need our help in any way, then you can give us a call, and there's always somebody awake across the Railbookers and Amtrak Vacations offices to assist. And just wanted to mention some of the rail partners. We work with all of the rail partners on the screen here, as well as others, to create very much a one-stop shop in terms of the holiday that we offer. So not only the rail tickets, but also hotel accommodation, sightseeing, excursions, ferries, transfers, flights, car hire in some cases as well. And as I say, all of that available up to 2 years in advance, so we can take all of that sort of complexity away from you. If you've ever tried to piece together anything by rail, you'll know that there are lots of different systems, lots of different languages, lots of different release dates, and we can take all of that complexity away from you, locking in the holiday with a small deposit up to 2 years in advance. So without further ado, let's take a look at the States by rail, and really excited to share with you 5 of our most popular, which also gives you a really good idea, I hope, of the sort of choices, the breadth of scope, and the different options that we have to cover the USA by rail. Something I've been fortunate enough to do myself. I travelled on the Southwest Chief from Chicago to Los Angeles in 2019. A fantastic experience, and we'll be looking at that route particularly a little bit later on, but wanted to start with our American Heritage trip. Now, this is a 10-day holiday with a starting price of £1,799. The ever popular East Coast cities of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington DC, and really a great example of why traveling by rail is sometimes just the easiest way, because these cities are all fantastically accessible by Amtrak, really easy to reach and travel between, arriving into the city centres to start the next leg of the journey, the next part of the holiday, and a really seamless way to connect these East Coast cities. Now, one thing I wanted to mention before we go any further in terms of the pricing, the prices here, the starting prices, don't include flights, but we can book flights as well. So we are ATOL protected, which gives you that peace of mind, confidence, and protection. But we can add those on, but the prices here at the moment are without flights. So just to be transparent on that. So you start this trip in Boston, before then moving down to New York for 3 nights, on to Philadelphia for 2 nights, and then finishing in Washington DC for 2 nights. So you'll travel on day services between all of those cities, and we do include a number of sightseeing options, as you'll see throughout the holidays I'm going to share this morning. In all of the major cities, we tend to include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing pass, which allows you a great way to see those cities and get your bearings, to stop off at places that interest you the most. It's also just a great way to travel around the city and use it as sort of public transport in a way. You do also have a New York City pass included here, which gives you access to really all of the major attractions. You do also have a dinner included at the View restaurant in New York on your last night in the city, and we do also include a Philadelphia pass, which again really gives you access to all of the major sites and attractions there. So we'll just have a look at some of those destinations in a bit more detail. Really, these cities, I mean, really don't need a huge amount of introduction. Very, very well known. Boston here, as I say, you have the City Pass, which will get you into some of the city's best attractions: the New England Aquarium, the Museum of Science, the Skywalk Observatory. And in terms of dinner destinations, I'm told the North End has some of the best Italian food you'll ever eat, with Boston's famous Italian American neighborhood there. Then it's on to New York, and again you have a city pass included here, Central Park, of course, but you have a city pass to access the Empire State Building, the American Museum of Natural History, the Museum of Modern Art, whole range of sightseeing and excursions included in that New York pass. Before moving on to Philadelphia, a city with, of course, a huge amount of history and culture, the birthplace of the American Constitution. So it's got a huge amount to visit as well. The Franklin Institute, the One Liberty Observation Deck, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and those are all included in the Philadelphia Pass as well. Apparently also, the city features more public art exhibits than any other in the world. It's a fact I found out yesterday. So lots again to see and do in Philadelphia before finishing at Washington DC. And city I've visited a few times as well, and I mean you could spend a week in the Smithsonian museums alone, to be honest. The space section particularly I found fascinating, but we've also got a huge amount of additional excursions and sightseeing that you can add on for Washington DC, including one of our most popular ones, which is the Monuments by Moonlight. So as the name suggests, is an evening tour, coach tour, which takes you around the city as the monuments are lit up, and a really, really lovely way to spend an evening in Washington DC. So really just to say there then that all of our holidays are flexible in terms of adding in extra nights, adding in extra destinations, but also changing the excursions, the sightseeing. If you want private tours adding in, if there's something specific that you'd like to do in any of these cities, then do please ask, because we will be able probably to provide that, to organise that in advance. So there's lots of choice and lots of flexibility with all of the trips. Now, as I say, the travel on this particular holiday, the American Heritage, is by day service. I just wanted to give you an example of what it looks like on board the Amtrak day services here. So very, very comfortable seating. They do recline slightly. You've got charging points in the seats as well, plenty of space for luggage overhead, as you see. So really comfortable air-conditioned carriage to travel between all of the cities on the East Coast there. Now, next we're going to move on to the 4 next trips actually all have something in common, and that's that they're using overnight Amtrak services, which is really what a lot of customers are looking to do, adding to something to experience off their bucket list, and a great way to celebrate a special occasion for sure. So we're going to move on now to the overnight options, and I'm going to start with our jazz, blues and rock and roll trip, which takes in the musical cities of Chicago, Memphis and New Orleans. So it's a 10-day trip as it is, with a starting price of £1,049. But as I say, if you wanted to add in extra nights in Chicago or Memphis or New Orleans, or if you wanted to do it in reverse and go north, lots of different ways to experience the trip. It starts with 2 nights in Chicago. You do have the multi-day hop-on, hop-off sightseeing pass there before you then board Chicago Union Station, which is an experience in itself. It's one of the biggest train stations I've ever been in. It's just huge and an incredible experience just to visit actually. But you travel overnight from Chicago Union Station on board the City of New Orleans service to Memphis for a 2-night stay, and during your time you'll be based in Memphis. Time there you have a sightseeing city tour of the city, including access to Graceland, of course, and then after 2 nights you'll then take the day train down to New Orleans, and you're there for 3 nights with a battlefield cruise included, as well as a sightseeing tour of New Orleans as well. So Chicago, of course, here, the city of skyscrapers, a fantastic place to spend a few nights, and really where a lot of the overnight journeys really start from. Chicago, very much the hub for Amtrak's overnight rail journeys, as you'll see as we go through. We include the City Pass here, as I say, which gets you into lots of the major attractions like the Sky Deck, for example, which gives you just the best views over the entire city. Next, it's on to Memphis. You have a tour including the iconic Graceland, of course, and it's also narrated throughout, so you'll discover downtown Beale Street, the Peabody Hotel, Sun Studio, really all the major sites included on that tour of the city. I mentioned the Peabody, and also just to mention that throughout our holidays, we have a range of 3, 4, and 5-star hotels available really in all of the major destinations. You always have the option to upgrade your hotel if you want to, and you can do that in one city or in all of them. Really, the choice again is yours. But the Peabody is really Memphis's most famous hotel, very famous for its duck parade. So they have resident ducks that live in the hotel, and every day the ducks parade through the lobby at 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So just a really curious heritage there from the Peabody Hotel, but certainly something to go and watch whilst you're there. But yeah, just to mention really that we do have these big ranges of hotels really to accommodate your budget, your style, decor, location in the city, and we're always very happy to make recommendations on that too. And then lastly, it's on to New Orleans. And as I say, whilst you're here, you have a battlefield cruise taking in all of the major sites, including the French Quarter, and it's on an old-fashioned paddle wheel boat. So you travel into the port of New Orleans, and you disembark at the site of the 1815 Battle of New Orleans. So lots of history to explore there. You can also take one of the horse and carriage rides as well around the city, pictured here. Lots to see and do. You do also have a brunch at one of the jazz restaurants included in this trip too, so to give you a really authentic experience of New Orleans. So next trip, traveling east to west this time, is our Great American Majestic Landscape. So this is going to take you all the way from New York across to San Francisco. One major highlight on this really is traveling on the California ZEPHYR. The California ZEPHYR traveling from Chicago to San Francisco is widely thought to be the most spectacular, most scenic of all of Amtrak's journeys. But you'll start first of all in New York, and have some time there before traveling over on the Lakeshore Limited route to Chicago. Based in Chicago for a 2-night stay before boarding the California ZEPHYR again at Chicago Union Station, and you'll travel through on that to Denver and disembark in Denver, spend 2 nights there, and you have a sightseeing tour of the Rocky Mountain National Park from Denver included. Then after your stay in Denver comes to an end, you'll board the California ZEPHYR again, and you'll continue through to San Francisco. Just outside San Francisco in Emeryville is where the train stops, and then you have a motor coach transfer into the city center of San Francisco. You're based there for 2 nights, and during your time there, you also have a sightseeing tour of the Napa and Sonoma wine valleys. That's a full day out from San Francisco to explore there. Plenty of tasting, of course, involved. So this is a 12-day trip with a starting price of £2,049. So again, taking in some of the most famous cities in the world, including New York and Chicago. This is a good time also for me to mention one of the additional sightseeing options that you can organise in advance in Chicago, and that's the Architecture River Cruise. I did this myself. It takes about an hour, and you travel through the heart of Chicago on the river, and the commentary is just first class about the history of the city, understanding the history of the skyscrapers, the different architecture involved in the construction of those. Really interesting way to spend an hour in the city. Would really highly recommend it, and we can of course book that in advance for you as well. So you'll then board the California ZEPHYR. As I say, widely thought to be one of the most beautiful train trips in all of North America, and you're traveling through from Chicago to the mile-high city of Denver, and another view of some of the scenery there as well. So it does climb through to the snow-capped Sierra Nevada as well. So a really beautiful journey, lots of contrasting scenery, and all available from your private window as you travel. And I think that's really one of the the really great things about traveling across the states, particularly by train, is that it's a view that you just really wouldn't get traveling any other way, and certainly not if you're driving, because of course on the train you can both, or all of you, you can look at the view and not have to concentrate on the road, of course, and it's just a really relaxed way of traveling, and the contrast of scenery as you travel through the various states on the way is really breathtaking, and a really, really great experience. I can't really rate it highly enough. So from Denver, you'll have the day trip, as I mentioned, to the Rocky Mountain National Park, a full sightseeing tour as a small group, and lots of opportunities to spot some of the wildlife. You'll drive over a Berthoud Pass, where you'll summit the Continental Divide. It sits at 11,000 feet above sea level. You'll visit the town of Winter Park, and then you head over to the town of Grand Lake for lunch as well, all included, and a really great way to see the national park as a day trip from Denver. And then, as I mentioned, when you get to San Francisco, you do also have a full day tour of Napa and Sonoma wine region. So this also includes a lunch, lots of tasting across the different wineries there, and something that customers always rate very, very highly upon return. Actually, it's a really, really lovely day out from San Francisco at the end of the trip. So, something a little bit different next, and this is our Grand National Parks with Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon. And over the last couple of years, pre-COVID, we were seeing a huge increase really in British travellers looking to explore the national parks by rail. Not always something that is immediately obvious, I think, for customers to really realise that you can do that by rail, a really different, unique way to visit the national parks. But here is one of our most popular, taking in Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon in one trip. So this is a round trip, return trip from Chicago. So the journey starts and ends in Chicago. You'll first of all travel, or as the map goes, you're sort of traveling anti-clockwise. So first of all, you go to Salt Lake City, again on the California ZEPHYR, and you'll from there travel on a return shuttle between Salt Lake City and into Yellowstone National Park, and you stay in Yellowstone National Park for 2 nights. Then you board Amtrak again to travel on the remainder of the California ZEPHYR route, again back over to California for a 2-night stay in San Francisco. During your time in San Francisco, you have a day trip out to the Yosemite National Park, again done by a pre-arranged organised shuttle there to take you into the heart of Yosemite. Then it's back on the rails to travel south to Los Angeles for a 1-night stay in LA, before then embarking on another fantastic long-distance train. That's the Southwest Chief, that will take you from Los Angeles first of all to Williams to visit the Grand Canyon for a night, before then re-embarking on the Southwest Chief to take you back up from Williams, well, from Flagstaff technically in Arizona, all the way through back to Chicago. So a huge amount of experiences national park wise in here. You've got some great city stays, all the scenery of three most famous trains in the California ZEPHYR, the Coast Starlight, and the Southwest Chief. So this is a fantastic 14-day trip with a starting price of £2,399. So first of all, you will visit, as I say, from disembarking the train in Salt Lake City, you'll take a shuttle up to Yellowstone, and you have 2 nights staying within the national park itself. The world's first national park, of course, that's Yellowstone's, one of its claims to fame, formed from the remains of an extinct volcano that exploded around 600,000 years ago. It's full of alpine lakes, flowing rivers, jagged peaks, forests, hot springs, and geysers, and your included tour whilst you're staying within the park will take in all of those fantastic landmarks, including the world famous geyser Old Faithful. That's the big photo opportunity, but there's a huge amount of wildlife, of course, that inhabits Yellowstone: the elks, the bears, even wolves as well. So a really great experience to stay within the heart of the national park here for 2 nights. You also have that full day trip from San Francisco to Yosemite, another real highlight. So you're picked up from your hotel, you'll ride cross country through California's agricultural heartland, straight into the national park to experience all it's famous for, the abundant pine forests, the giant redwoods, the peaks such as El Capitan, and again a huge amount of variety of wildlife as well, which is very often spotted. So another great day trip there. You have a night in Los Angeles, and here is the observatory looking over downtown LA in the distance. Really, really highly recommend taking the time to travel up to the observatory. It's a great vantage point over the city, and I think you really should visit there as well. You do have the hop on hop off included for Los Angeles, which gives you the tour of downtown Hollywood as well, and the sort of stars and sights there of Beverly Hills, but also, yeah, it's certainly worth taking a trip up to the observatory, which sort of sits behind the Hollywood sign there. And then, as I say, from LA, you'll travel back towards Chicago on the Southwest Chief, and you can see it here traveling through Arizona. You'll travel to Williams, Flagstaff and Williams on the Southwest Chief, and you will then board to travel into the Grand Canyon National Park, the Grand Canyon Railway. So this leaves the Grand Canyon Railway depot in Williams, and you travel north through the Ponderosa Pines, a really, really beautiful journey into the heart of the national park on the train itself. I think it's a really unique way to visit this national park. You have a choice of accommodation on board, including the first class option here with the observation deck at the back, but you have throughout the different classes of service, there is a guide or an attendant that stays with you in your carriage through the journey and provides excellent commentary as you're traveling through, gets you ready for your first view of the Grand Canyon as you travel, and has some really great tips of where to go, where to visit as well whilst you're there. So yeah, again, a really unique way to enter the national park on the rails itself. And then, of course, the Grand Canyon, really probably the national park that needs very little introduction. You do have a tour of the South Rim included in this package, so you stay for the evening in the national park, but you do also have a South Rim tour on motor coach, which again will take you to some of the best vantage points. All of the guides are excellent. They have so much experience of the national park, have so many stories to tell, and a really lovely way to spend a few hours with them, as well as then having the freedom and flexibility to explore a little bit from your South Rim hotel too. So next, this is the All-American, and as the name suggests, it's really a combination of lots of the different destinations that we've looked at this morning so far, all in one trip, taking in that all-American experience. So those fantastic cities of New York, Chicago, Denver, San Francisco, New Orleans, with the fabulous rail experiences on board the California ZEPHYR, the Coast Starlight, Lakeshore Limited, and lots of sightseeing opportunities included as well. So again, this is a round trip from Chicago. You'll travel from Chicago to New York, to New Orleans, round to San Francisco, across to Denver, and back to Chicago. Fabulous journey, taking in all of those fantastic experiences. As I say, it also includes the Rocky Mountain National Park trip, as well as lots of sightseeing, hop on, hop off opportunities as well in those cities. So the Coast Starlight here is the full route runs from Seattle to LA, but it's one of the most scenic routes that travels up the California coastline. As you can see here, hugs the coast very, very close, and a beautifully scenic route. Another view here as it travels along the coastline. And San Francisco here, one of the cities that's included in lots of our trips. We have, again, lots of sightseeing options to do here. You do have an included dinner down at Fisherman's Wharf as well, which is where most of our hotel accommodation is based. You have, of course, the opportunity to visit Alcatraz or just soak in the atmosphere. It's a fantastic city to spend a few nights in as well. And then Denver itself, of course, heart of the Rocky National Park, and we have day trips there too. But the city itself has a huge amount to explore and visit, including this, the Red Rocks Amphitheatre. It's, as you see on the screen, an open-air amphitheatre built into the rock structure. It's about 10 miles west of Denver, but you can very easily hop on one of the shuttles that leaves from Denver Union Station out to visit here. It, of course, hosts a huge amount of music events, but it's also a park in its own right. It's a designated National Historic Landmark by the National Park Service, and it's available to sort of wander around and explore as well. Has some fantastic restaurants as well to visit, and a really great way to spend some time whilst you're in the Mile High City, as well as going to the Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, I mentioned before we looked at those last 4 holidays that these holidays all include traveling overnight on Amtrak. So now I wanted to just finish by looking at the onboard accommodation and what it's like to travel on board the overnight services. So with all of the overnight options, you have 3 classes of service to choose from. You have coach accommodation, which is here, similar really to a first class airline seat in terms of the seat size. It reclines, as you can see, very comfortable, and you do have ample luggage facilities above the seats here as well. However, after coach, there are 2 additional classes of service: sleeping accommodation, either the roomette or the bedroom, and it tends to be the roomette here or the bedroom that most of our customers will opt for. So this provides you with private sleeping accommodation. As you see here on the screen, this is the roomette, which is shown during the daytime. So you have 2 armchairs that face each other. You have a private door here that locks, and then during the evening, those seats then are converted into the upper and lower berth that you see on the screen there. Now you do have, perhaps if you can just see further down the corridor, there's a door ajar. Those are the toilets and washroom. Those are shared by customers traveling in the roomette accommodation. Typically about 6 compartments will share those wash facilities. I have to say, in my experience, really well looked after during the journey. You have an attendant that looks after only your carriage of roomettes, will do all of the bed converting for the evening and in the morning whilst you're enjoying breakfast in the dining car, looks after all of the shared facilities really well. You do also have tea and coffee making facilities just on the left of the picture as well, where you can also get fresh water. So really comfortable way to travel in the roomette. There is a third option though, and that is the bedroom. So the bedroom here, ready for evening, as you can see. It has still the upper and lower berth, but the lower berth is wider and comes out beyond the upper berth, and it also is the only sleeping accommodation that has full ensuite facilities. So with the bedroom, you do have your own shower, your own toilet, your own wash basin, and of course in both the bed linen is provided and organised by the attendant. And that is the bedroom during the day. So you can see on the right hand side, the lady is sitting on more of a sofa style seat, and on the left it's an armchair. That armchair stays there during the evening as well, because the room is slightly bigger and therefore has the option to have a standard static armchair during the evening too. Now you do also have the observation carriages, which are available whether you're in coach, roomettes or bedrooms. A real highlight of travelling by Amtrak is to go and sit in the observation carriage for a change of view and to see the world passing by. It's a real social hub of the train as well. And then, of course, you have the famous Amtrak dining carriages. Now, another bonus of travelling in either a roomette or a bedroom is that all of your meals on board the train are included in the cost of the holiday. So you get breakfast, lunch and dinner cooked freshly to order within the dining carriage. You can also have it delivered to your carriage if you prefer, but dining on board in the carriage is a real highlight, I think, of the journey. The food is fantastic. Pancakes for breakfast, personally recommended. The steaks for dinner are fantastic as well. A wide range of choice, dietary requirements always taken into consideration. There's always different options there. And as I say, another social hub of the train. Get to meet your fellow passengers and talk with them over dinner and enjoy some fantastic food. So, hope that's given you some inspiration, perhaps if you're looking ahead to next year for a US trip by train. Hope it's given you some ideas of what is possible. More ideas available on our website, but also now going to open it up to any questions that you may have as we go through. I'm just going to have a quick scroll. Question about how long you get in Yosemite. It's a full day, so you get about 6 or 7 hours by the time you've transferred from San Francisco into the national park there. Can also just see a few questions about hotel accommodation, so no problem. We have a variety of hotel accommodation. So in most of the cities, we have 3, 4, 5-star hotels. The beauty of these trips and what we do is that it's incredibly flexible. The choice is yours. So we will always make suggestions and recommendations for hotels based on customer feedback, based on the relationships that we have with those hotels. But if there is somewhere particular perhaps that you want to revisit, that you visited previously, if you are traveling for a birthday or an anniversary and on a particular part of the trip you want to stay in a 5-star property but a 3-star for the rest of it, all of these things are entirely possible. And as I said at the beginning, this is your holiday, so we can book it with exactly what you want and nothing that you don't. And that's true really of all of it. You know, the train accommodation, the hotel accommodation, how long you spend in any of these destinations. If you are, you know, visiting maybe next year visiting friends and family, and you're going to stay with them but want to travel on board Amtrak either side of that, you know, there's lots of ways in which the rail trip here can be included into holidays. So lots of flexibility, lots of choice. But you know, if you're looking and planning something, if you want further advice, further suggestions, then do please just give us a call. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30 on the number that you see there, 0203 780 2222. So yeah, just give us a call if there's anything that you're looking into planning and would like some advice on, really. So I think I've covered the topics of most of the questions. Hope you found that useful. Hope it's not too warm where you are. It is starting to get very hot here in Kent. But thank you very much for your company. It's been great taking you to the USA for half an hour or so this morning on Tuesday. And hope you stay well and hope to see you again soon on another Railbookers and Amtrak Vacations presentation. Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.